Hey there. So I had done a video. I recorded a video and it was about OPS and advice. I haven't posted it and I was thinking, it's kind of simple, but I started watching this podcast called We're Here to Help. And it stars Jake Johnson. I think he's from New Girl. I've never watched that show. Apparently he's from New Girl. Never watched the show. Don't know the character. First time I've seen him. And then the other guy is Gareth Reynolds. And Gareth's in the Dollop, which I think I've seen him on other podcasts. And I think I've listened to one episode of the Dollop. So I know him a little more, but not that much. And then I saw them on Tiger Belly and thought they were hilarious. So I wanted to check out their podcast and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And it's called We're Here to Help and it's about advice. And it's so funny because the video I recorded about advice was basically, I don't like taking advice because I feel like, you have to consider the source and people tend to give the advice that help them. So my video was basically talking about you have to look at it in an OPS way. If the person's saviors are your demons, then what they learned, their demons might be your saviors. So if their advice is they learned how to use their demons, it's not going to be so helpful for you because you're already overdoing that. Amongst other things that can really flavor advice, like someone maybe is in wants a career and they want to be CEO, like, talking about the socials. So if someone gives you advice on how to be a social 1 and you're a social 2 or 3 or 4, and you might not want that at this time in your life or ever. And not that honestly though, so I think they've touched on this in their videos, like people in different social types can do things and the other social type. So people in 3 and 4 can be a CEO and people who are number 4s can be in number 1s in their field and really well known, like Joe Rogan's a good example. So they can end up there. It can look a little different and they can maybe be uncomfortable there, maybe not last very long. And I am social type 4. I was a supervisor and manager for many years. And it was something that I was kind of encouraged for me to do because I knew the most at my job. I knew them more than anyone. I'd been there a long time and also had been really curious about learning a lot and like learning a lot of different things. And my job is still very specialized, but I do feel like, so I work in a laboratory and I feel like every test analysis you do, even when it's a different platform or different compounds you're looking at, it's basically the same. It's very, very similar to each other test. And so once you learn a couple or a few, you really realize, okay, this is just different compounds. I'm just making different compounds and maybe they have different storage requirements and maybe they behave a little differently than these other compounds, but that part doesn't take that long to learn. And all the other skills that you've learned that are the harder ones apply everywhere universally. So that's how my field was. And so I learned a lot and I learned a lot across departments, and not everyone did that, even though, like I said, it was very similar. The tests are very similar. But anyway, so that kind of moved people to say, hey, you know all the tests anyway, why don't you do supervisor? I was like, yeah, I should challenge myself and do it. I never thought I could. I never thought I would, or not could, but I never thought I really wanted that. And for someone to see it, I had a lot of encouragement from a couple people, a lot. So I don't think I would have with just hey, you should do it. No, it was a lot of encouragement and I did it. And there's definitely aspects I like. So I do like, and I'm getting off of the advice topic, but I'll go right back. I enjoyed, and this is just talking about social 4 doing supervising and management. I enjoyed training people and I still do. And I enjoyed hiring people. And I think I would still enjoy that, although I don't get to do that yeah, I really enjoyed hiring people and creating a team because I do think a social four, maybe even a two, with friends would be very good at creating a team of people who can work together and then want to stay together. Because one thing that I was hiring for was, you people might not stay forever, but you don't want them to leave because it's a bad environment, right? You want them to leave because you can't pay them as much as they'd like, even, it's out of your hands, you really can't, or they're moving, or, they just want something different in their life. But for them to leave because the job sucks, that's what you don't want. So I want to create an environment of people who are going to be happy at their job and work well together. And I just really enjoy doing that. And I would still enjoy doing that. Now, I didn't like what to me felt like babysitting adults. I don't like that. Now, if you told me, oh, I was going to do more specialized stuff, like I was going to help people run their analysis and they could go to me for technical questions, but it really became more of a babysitting adult kind of thing. Yeah, and I don't think people, if someone's never been a manager or supervisor, I don't think people realize how much of it is that. And not only that, a lot of meetings, and I don't really like meetings. Being a friends person, um, is it friends that doesn't like meetings? Well, I don't know exactly, but um, I don't like a lot of meetings. Now, I do think it's important to communicate, but I think when you become a manager, it just seems like that's all you're doing is that level. You're not really, you lose touch with what the job was. And so the reason why people thought I should be a supervisor was because I was embedded in there and knew what was going on and they could have the answers. And once you become removed from that, you actually have less of the answers. And it is about, I feel like successful supervisors are actually more hands off and like more you figure it out. You figure it out. So I don't believe the reason why people said you should do it was really aligned with what the job was. People thought I should do it because I could answer the specific questions. But that's really, I think, the most successful supervisors are really very hands off. Like you do it and you figure it out. And they can't always answer. I mean, maybe I'm thinking more of it too. I like two bosses, and the ones could be the CEOs that never talk to anyone, but maybe a couple, their team. The couple department managers. So maybe like in a lab I've worked with, there's been like two department managers. So the CEO might talk to them, or maybe just talk to the department manager, and or the lab manager, and that's it. Whereas the actual supervisors and everything, seems like when there are two, um, it works a lot better in my opinion, because they're more hands off because they don't like being specialized, and you really are hands off. Your job is such that you cannot be specialized, and I hated that. So anyway, I digressed from there because I was talking about advice and how different social types can be an indicator of why advice isn't good. Now, there's other reasons I think I don't like advice. I don't know. I relate it to being lead SE, but I could be wrong. And that's because I do like to experience things for myself. And so I'm always thinking, okay, this person is probably different personality. They want something different out of life. How many people really want what I want out of life? I don't know that people want like, and I mean, yeah, everybody has their same needs, but it might be I have a need to be fulfilled as a person, but it's going to look different for each person. So I always think, I don't know that people really have the vision I have, because I've never been one like I want to be married with kids. That was never a vision of mine. And so people a lot of times might give advice towards that. And you're just like, I'm going to be really unhappy if feel like I'm stuck in something that looks like looks very common, I guess. Looks like what you should be doing. I don't like the thought of being bound in what you should be doing. Anyway, so this show I'll change my mind a little bit. So I gave an example also in my video on advice, and I haven't posted it. I might not, but the analogy or the example was, just do it versus sleep on it. So you might even see sayings, like that. In social media, you get the quotes and the quotes that are basically advice, like and I just picked simple ones, just do it. And then you might see something else, sleep on it, right? And those are basically advice. And people think they're universal and fit everything. Maybe some people might, they're that's the universal advice. Well, not really. It really suits certain people, certain situations. So if you're already a just do it kind of person, your advice might be to sleep on it. If you're already a sleep on it kind of person, your advice might be to just do it. And I was thinking blast last versus I was thinking play last actually versus sleep last, because play, I think, dives into things that sleep processes. So it's more of a play above sleep thing. And but going back to this podcast, I really enjoy the advice they give, because they try and brainstorm things they think will work. The person gives a specific question of what they want, what their goal is. So I like that, because that is something most people don't. Most people, when they get advice, you're just might be complaining or venting. You're venting your situation, and you don't say, I'm having such a hard time at work. I need to know how to ask my boss for a raise. You might just be like, I'm just really discouraged at work. I'm not happy. And then your friend might just say, go look for another job or whatever. But if you really frame what you want, like I want to ask for a raise, then these guys on the podcast will give all different ways you can get a raise. And they really try to make you meet your goal versus steering you somewhere else. And I thoroughly enjoy this style of giving advice. For instance, here's one that they had, and it's super creative, and that's why I love it. People, when they give advice, mostly are thinking what works for me, and these guys are just thinking what will work, what will make you get what you want in that question you asked. So one guy was asking, he worked at a restaurant, he was the chef, and the owner kind of wanted these basic style recipes, and he was doing more high-end chef style, like like if you're a chef and you want to make creations, he was making creations, versus this guy wanted to copy another restaurant that had more social media followers. And so the guy's like, I want to get my boss to stop making me copy these lame recipes. And I mean, they gave us plethora of advice on things he could try, one of which is get your boss blocked. Get the social media that he's looking at, that restaurant, to block him so he can't try and copy those recipes. And then it was like, do the mentalist, and kind of like a Darren Brown, place words in his brain to where you guide him to the recipe that you want. This is just so awesome advice. Like, you do not get this kind of advice. And so I was going to make a whole video about be careful with advice. And I do think in general, people just give the advice that they want. But this show, to me, is a whole nother level of advice giving that I could totally 100% get behind. So I just recommend it. We're here to help. If you're a person that likes to give advice, which I think it's blasters do, I'm not exactly, I mean, maybe everyone does, but I think blasters might more so. I'm not sure on that, actually, if that's just a stereotype. But that's what I'm thinking OPS-wise, because it's fine-tuning what the tribe, you are the tribe, and you're coming to me, and I'm going to fine-tune what I think you should do. So I'm fine-tune what I think that, anyway, I'm thinking blast people, but everyone does sometimes give advice. So yeah, I think it's something that people like to give advice, and if people told you're kind of annoying when you give advice, or you think you might be annoying, or it's annoying to give advice, but you still love it, I would watch this show and learn how to give advice this way. Ask a question. What exactly do you want? What is the outcome that you want? And then give several suggestions. Very good show, and changed my whole topic of advice, that when it's more of a creative endeavor, when you're thinking of multiple solutions to make someone meet their specific goal, not your specific goal. That's why I think the problem is with advice. People think I'm going to make you meet my specific goal, and your goal is to be happier. That's all people think. Oh, your goal is to be happier. Well, then I'm going to tell you how to be happier. And that might be the problem. We need more specific questions. Anyway,